Richard, what happens if you fill it in wrong?
That's the question, isn't it? It's the one that we keep
Mhm.
getting asked, Romy, because the Sems annual return goes live in a few weeks' time. And we now know it's going to be multiple choice and nothing to upload.
So nothing to check against and no paperwork trail,
Oh, it seems to be. And the question that everyone, keeps asking is, what happens if you get it wrong as well?
which sounds like a quite a simple question, I think, doesn't it?
It does, but I don't think it's going to stay simple. So if you've also
Right.
wondered the same thing, stick with us because this is Let's Talk Premises, and my name is Richard.
And my name's Romy, and every 2 weeks we look at what school estate news actually means in practice. And
That's
this
right.
fortnight, it's all about the Sems annual return.
So, Romy, let's actually answer some of these
Yeah.
questions. And I also think we should get into who's meant to be filling this thing in as well, because I
hmm
reckon that's not so obvious actually from when you read through it.
Yeah, good, because multiple choice does make it sound like a bit of a 5 minute job. So
Yeah.
come on then, what does happen if a school was to get this wrong?
Officially,
hmm
nothing.
Right.
So there's no penalty, Romy, in the guidance. There's no
Okay.
verification step. Nothing says the DfE is going to go back and check what you've clicked.
So in theory, you could put level 3 across the board and nobody would even know.
Yes, you could, Romy. In the moment, you
Yeah.
could do that. But here's where it gets interesting because the silence in the guidance isn't the same as a green light just to put whatever you want. And I reckon there's two reasons to that. Yeah.
Okay, go on. I want to hear this. What are those two reasons?
So, okay. So, reason one, right? Let's
Yeah.
assume that you're a trust or something like that. Your trustees are already accountable for reporting to the DfE accurately,
But even
right?
though the return itself doesn't actually mention accountability or trustees or any of that.
No, but it's really important because that duty doesn't switch off because this is some particular new task that you've got to do. Yeah.
Mm.
So an inflated answer isn't just optimistic. It's actually a governance question. Yeah.
Okay, and what about the second reason?
Yeah. So the second reason, okay. So I'd say this is
Yeah.
more like practical because whatever you submit becomes your position, right?
Yeah.
So
So it's less about what happens this year and more about what it's going to set you up for later.
yeah, and your
Mm.
position, you don't want to be too optimistic, right? Think about this, especially if you get an ESFA visit, right, or an audit later, or something
Mm.
like that they put in place, and it's pretty different, yeah, or even maybe next year's return just does not line up with this one. The
Yeah.
gap's the problem, right? So not anything that the guidance says.
So the
Does that make
consequence
sense?
isn't written down anywhere as such. It is just going to turn up for you later.
Yeah, think about it
Mm.
because that's a much harder place to be. The first position is what it is, and then you build upon that. But no
Yeah.
one's told you where that line is. So you're kind of working this out for yourself as well. Yeah.
Mm. So has anything really changed here then, or is it just on record now? No, which isn't nothing, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is mostly
Mm.
just now on record. Like the gaps you should already know about. Okay.
Mm.
They're now written down and they go to the DfE as your first position. And that's like obviously the first shift. Yeah.
Okay. So who's actually filling it in then? That's surely going to be the estates team.
Probably for most, Romy. Yeah,
Yeah.
but let's think about again what sits behind these answers when you start going through them. Because a 15 school trust, for example, or
Mm.
whatever, someone's gathering condition data. Yeah,
Yeah.
someone the DEC certificates or the fire risk assessments or whatever. And that's of 15 site managers who all file things perhaps in a slightly different way if you don't have a system in place, for example.
So it's not just one office pulling this together, is it? It's going to be coordination across
Yeah,
however many sites you've got, and they're all going to be keeping their paperwork differently
that's
too,
it.
aren't they?
That's it. And obviously, then you
Yeah.
get a diocese, and then you get a local authority, and they might
hmm
have 40 sites, 100 sites, and it's the same again. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one person chasing that across sites. They don't even run day to day,
Yeah.
trying to get the consistent answers out of people who've probably never even been asked those questions before.
Usually, yeah,
Mm.
and here's the catch, Romy, because some of what's been asked isn't operational at all.
Not
Yeah.
operational. I'd have said that signing for strategy is exactly the estates team's job, though, isn't it?
Well, even at baseline, think about it like this. Even at baseline, your
Mm.
estate strategy is meant to be signed off by the governing body or trustees or whatever, yeah? So
Yeah.
not just written up by whoever runs estates.
So
Yeah.
if the estate's lead answers a governance question and the board's never even seen the return.
That's it. And it gets quite deep. So this is quite
Mm.
complicated. And you really have to think about this depending on your particular situation, because if you're answering the governance questions for them without
Yeah.
them knowing that that's happened,
Hmm.
you know, this then all loops back to the beginning where they have that accountability, responsibility. Um, and just no one said who should own this. This is just all open at the moment.
Okay. So let's just make this real for a second.
Okay.
For level 3, fully effective on paper is one thing,
Yep.
but what does that actually look like just on a normal Tuesday?
So document version, right?
Hmm.
All things in place, which tells you nothing, really.
Right. So say I don't want the document version.
All right. So fully effective. So that means things like strategic reviews
Mhm.
that are actually in the diary, not just done when someone just remembers you need to do something.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's already further along than I'd guess most schools are.
maybe. And this is going to be a bit of a, an open eye thing for most places. And another one, for example, it mentions about sustainability lead,
Yeah.
who's a real named person. And I'm sure most, bodies now have this.
Yeah.
But there's other things like, buildings getting checked for structural condition on purpose,
Right.
not just because something's starting to look wrong. Yeah.
Okay.
It's level
And
3.
level 2, what does that mean for a real school, a real budget?
Level 2. Okay. So that's like someone glancing at the condition data maybe now and again when they're trying to
Which
think of what
is
we need to do next.
probably what most site managers would probably say they're doing already.
I'm sure,
Yeah.
So level three's data, that's now making things that you're deciding now on that data what's going to get fixed first, and someone's owning that link, not just sitting on the spreadsheet. And level 2 is, the bit before that, as if you're
Mm.
you're using it, but perhaps not sort of religiously. If that makes
So it's
sense.
not really a paperwork gap between the two.
No, it's whether anyone's using what they've already got and can prove that really.
Okay. And anyone sitting there going, yeah, we do that already. What do you say to them?
It's worth asking whether you really do it or whether it just is there on paper.
Yeah, and
That's
that's
the
the
important
uncomfortable
thing here.
question to sit with, isn't it? If you're honest
Yeah.
about it.
It's
Yeah.
not the same thing. And you really need to put what your position is now so then you can prove that you're doing something about it. And this return just won't sort that out for you. So
Okay. And if there's just one thing to take away from this video, what do you think that would be?
I would say that this year's return, it's
Hmm.
probably not even about this year. It's the number every future return gets held up against. Okay. No one's going to tell you that, but that is what it is.
Okay, perfect. That's a great place to end it, I think, Richard.
Yep.
It's been really useful. If you have found this useful, please give this video a like. That really helps us see which premises topics are worth covering next. And yeah, we will see you next time.
See you later.